Whether tragic loss is something you're going through now or it's something you'll go through later on, all of us will experience tragic loss at some point because loss is a part of life. And today in Black History Makers, we're going to look at the story of a man who experienced tragedy and loss and how faith responds to it. Let's get right to it. Thomas Dorsey was born in 1899 in rural Georgia. His father was a preacher and his mother was the organist in the church. Thomas learned to play piano at a very young age from his mother. And at 10 years old, because the family was so poor, his father entered into sharecropping, and Thomas dropped out of school and picked up a job at the local black vaudeville theater. He did odd jobs around the theater, selling soda and carrying water. And he would sneak off to play the piano whenever he could. Along the way, he would pick up little blues licks and riffs on the piano from any of the traveling musicians who came to play at the silent theater there. Now, culturally going out at that same time, this was the first Great Migration. Because of Jim Crow laws and segregation and a lack of job opportunities, millions of African Americans fled the Deep South in search of jobs and opportunities in urban cities in the North. Now, in that great number was Thomas Dorsey. At 17 years old, he left Atlanta, Georgia, and moved to Chicago, Illinois, with an aspiration to becoming a full-time musician. Thomas's talent spoke for himself and immediately had incredible opportunity. He played in theaters, he played in churches, he wrote scores, and everywhere he went, his reputation as a great musician preceded him. Now, this entire time, Thomas is writing and composing music. And in these songs where he incorporated his love of the blues and jazz with his love of Jesus, and he'd bring them to churches and say, here, take a look at this song. They didn't know what to do with them. The time wasn't quite right. And while Thomas struggled to get a foothold in the church world with his music, he had no problems in the secular world. He paired up with a lady named Ma Rainey in the Wildcats Jazz Band. He was known in the club scene as Georgia Tom, and he eventually partnered up with a man named Hudson Red, and they had incredible success and actually sold 500,000 copies of a hit they wrote. It'd be like having a top 10 hit on today's Billboard charts. And right as Thomas was having all of this great success, he experienced his first loss. He started to lose feeling in his hands, and he could no longer move his fingers as quickly as he used to, and he lost his ability to play piano. Now think of this. You'd spent your entire life with the love of music. You've dedicated yourself to the craft of learning piano, and then all of a sudden it's taken away from you. This sent him into deep depression that lasted for 2 years. And right at this time, Thomas experienced his second great loss. He was here in St. Louis, playing in a kind of revival church circuit kind of a thing, and he got a telegram from Chicago. But rather than me telling you about it, I figured I'd let Thomas tell you about it himself.
My wife was to become a mother. I went away with the feeling that she'd make a lovely mother when I came back. I knew my people were well when I left home, and they sent for me to come to the door. I said, boy, brought me in the telegram. I took it and read it. I almost fell out. It says, hurry home. Your wife just died. I don't know how you would accept that, but I couldn't accept it at all. And a friend of mine put me in the car and took me right home. I got home and I jumped out and ran in to see if it was really true. And one of the girls just started crying and said, Nettie just died, Nettie just died, Nettie just died, and fell in the floor. The baby was left alive, but in the next 2 days, the baby died. Now, what should I do then and there? And then they tried to tell me the things that would be soothing to me. But none of it's never been soothing to me from that day to this day. But two fellows come by, I forget their names, they were friends of mine. And they were telling me about it. And I says, I don't know what to do and I don't know how to do. And I just tried to make my little talk to the Lord, but it was wasting, I think. And I called the Lord some one thing, and one of the others says, no, that's not his name. Say, precious Lord. I said, that just sounds good. And it's got several amens on precious Lord. And ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, I started singing right then and there, precious Lord, take my hand, lead lead me on and let me stand.
Precious Lord, Take My Hand has gone on to inspire millions of people. It's been covered by Aretha Franklin, Elvis Presley, Beyonce. It was sung at the funeral of Martin Luther King and the inauguration of Barack Obama. Precious Lord, Take My Hand expressed the loss that Thomas felt perfectly with the blues voicings and that minor feel, but then brought it into faith and gave it hope in Jesus. And the reason the song was so popular was that it wasn't just Thomas's experience. That was the African American experience. In spite of incredible tragedy and incredible loss, there was this element of faith and hope that rang true. And it's the reason Thomas Dorsey's music resonated with so many people. That marriage of faith and hope in the midst of tragedy is called good news, or the gospel. And that's why eventually it became known as gospel music. And that's why every great gospel artist today calls Thomas Dorsey the father of gospel music. Now today in your discussions, you're going to look at the lyrics of Precious Lord, Take My Hand. You're going to look at some of the verses that inspired Thomas Dorsey, and then you're going to apply it to your own life. Again, loss is something you're either going through now, you have gone through, or you will go through. And that's where your faith in Jesus comes alive. Today's discussion will encourage your faith. It's going to give you hope, and I am so excited for you to have this time together. Thanks so much, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.